So today, I mentioned we're going to be talking about DayZ and what can be better inside of the game. Now, I wrote down a list of what could be possibly better, kind of broad subjects for us to tackle, but we got infected, combat, crafting, base building, survival elements, and the PvP balancing. Now, let's just jump in right away and talk about the infected. You're kind of a new player to DayZ, so kind of from your experience, what about infected do you think could be better in DayZ?
Well, to be honest, the infected are kind of boring in DayZ at this point, and I'm a relatively new player. Now, I don't say that in the sense that they're not dangerous to me because you get a few involved and I'll still get knocked down or get killed. The problem is that they're predictable. And this is something that me and you and Red were talking about before we started recording is once you learn kind of the moves, it's it's not hard to get it's not impossible to get hit, but it's easy to avoid getting hit. Once you learn the moves, you learn to just keep moving backwards until they give you an opening. And unless you get greedy or one of them runs through you or gets around you, you're not really going to get hit that much.
Your point is that a single infected is pretty easy to beat because the pattern is so predictable. However, when you go against multiple of them, do you find yourself still succeeding because the pattern is predictable?
For me, it's not even necessarily about the numbers. It's the fact that those infected still stick to the same attack pattern, even if you have more numbers. The problem with that becomes that if you have them doing that big two-handed attack at different times, which is where your opportunity for a hit comes in, you can literally get stuck in a loop where you don't have an opening to attack. If you have three infected coming at you and they're all doing that attack one after the other, like you don't have an opening really to attack without opening yourself up to damage or bleed damage. And that's when they become dangerous. Or again, when they get around behind you, because I've noticed a lot more, and maybe this is just because I've been playing a little bit more, that it feels like the infected are running through me and getting behind me while I'm trying to block. And that's where I'm getting hit more often than not.
Yeah, I think when it comes to my critique of infected, it kind of follows along the pattern you're talking about, but it's the fact that I can indefinitely block all their attacks while walking back with my hands up, right? And my suggestion is, I think that every every attack you block from infected should reduce your stamina. And when you run out of your stamina, the infected should hurt you for like maybe half or maybe like one fourth of the damage. But it should still be there as a hey, I can't do like the strategy of like because like I myself can take on like five infected at once with just my bare hands and take them out. Now I know me, but no, I mean I'm being serious. When I can do that, it's because the pattern is predictable. I know as soon as they do the downward swipe, I do shift, punch, shift punch, heavy punch, and then I back up with my arms, let them hit me a couple of times.
You just solved a problem that I have because one of my complaints was also going to be that I can't stop their attacks. Like I can't stagger them. You know, I can't hit them when they're mid heavy attack and stop them from attacking me. I didn't realize you could do heavy attacks because again, like I've played several hours in this game, but DayZ is a very like unhandholdy game. Once you get started, unless you have someone teaching you or unless you're watching and researching, you just kind of have to figure this stuff out by yourself.
When it comes to like doing PvE combat and then getting engaged in PvP or just raw PvP. What do you have for us as a new player for DayZ?
I think for me, I'm okay with it at the point I am in DayZ. That may change after I have more hours of experience and I play for hours and hours and hours on end. But the experiences I've had so far, again, the only issue I've really run into with the PvP is a skill issue and a lack of gear, honestly.
But yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and move on to the next subject because I feel like we've spent quite a bit on this. And the next one is definitely going to take a little bit because I'm going to put crafting and base building into the same one, but crafting and base building dimension. As a new player, again, I know I'm leaning on you a lot on this, but I want to hear your impression first. What can be better with our crafting and base building in DayZ itself?
I like the DayZ inventory system, but I do feel like it's a little bit clunky. There's small little tweaks that I would like to see that would help slightly. And some of them may be considered like a spoiled mechanic from coming from other games. But things like quick move or quick drop, um,
I just want to make sure you do know that if you hold control and left click, you immediately drop it on the ground.
oh, I
Okay.
didn't know that.
That is that is a mechanic they already have in the game, but if I'm just letting you know so you can know it when you're talking about your feedback on this.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, that is not quite fully what I want from that, but that definitely solves some of the issue I had with the inventory system. The other thing with crafting is I feel like some things are very common sense and they make sense to make. You know, crafting a rope, you can do that out of guts or you can do that out of like 2 stacks of 6 rags. That makes sense. Other things don't really make sense to me when it comes to crafting and base building. One of the things that I was trying to do last night when I was playing was build a fence. One of the things you need to build a fence is a hammer or like a hatchet because it can be used as a hammer. I had a splitting axe, which, granted, in real life would be more difficult to use as a hammer, but conceivably could be used as a hammer. You can already use a hatchet as a hammer. Why not be able to use this bigger axe as a hammer? But I couldn't build my fence because I didn't have either a regular hammer or a hatchet. So I eventually just had to give up on building. And to me, that was a common sense thing that I just thought I could use that bigger axe as a hammer. And I think that that also leads into my other point about base building is it's not very accessible. You've either got to have a lot of storage space to be able to get together all the items you need to start building a base, or you need a crew to be able to be hauling equipment to you while you build.
As a solo player, you're more of a wanderer with some like stashes because you could bury some backpacks and you could bury some dry bags, or using improvised tents. That's a base building object you may not know of, where you can combine rope and sticks and make a improvised like leaf shelter or like the tarps that you find around. Those can also make the improvised shelters, and finally, you can make one from leather. But those are like early access base building. But base building itself, I believe, was always meant to be like a long term goal that was meant to be done. So like I see your point. Is there anything that you would like to add now that I've kind of explained maybe more of the, I guess, intent behind base building in DayZ on that?
I still wish it was more accessible. I love the fact that it is a long-term thing and I love that it's not just something that you can easily throw together. I'm probably not ever going to experience base building in its fullest unless I have a group to play with. And that's sad, but also like I don't feel like I'm missing a giant portion of the game that really matters.
Moving on to your critique of the base building and how like you just like to choke up on the wood axe and pop 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 pop, right, the nails in. I 100% agree. I don't know why I can't use a small rock to do that, or I think you said before we started the recording, using a wooden log. But like I feel like it could be more universal, but I also feel like Daisy in the past has kind of taken that kind of feedback and go, you know what, people are right. Like canned food, closed canned food used to be almost impossible to open unless you had a hacksaw, a knife, or a can opener. But that was the other thing, is people were pointing out, hey, if I'm desperate for food, I'm going to open with whatever I have in my inventory, whether that be a pickaxe, a screwdriver, a sledgehammer. And eventually Daisy included almost any melee weapon now can open a canned food. The spillage factor depends on what it is. If you open with a baseball bat, the spillage factor is crazy, but you still get to open it. And I think console owners and console players would love to see the ability to control how many resources and how much effort is put into base building itself. The other thing I think would be cool is the ability to control damage reduction to base building objects. In base building right now, you can use guns, explosives, or melee to break down each individual part of base building. And that all does individual health. I think it'd be cool if DayZ made a JSON for console owners and PC owners where you could control how much damage bullets and stuff did. And it would be a percentile. So, like 100% is 100% normal vanilla damage, 50% is 50%. But this would give server owners on console the ability to fully control how base building works on their server. Maybe they want base building to be a really hard thing to obtain, but they also want the bases to be extremely hard to break into. So instead of 80 nails to build a fence, it takes 300 nails to build a fence. But you know what? That fence is 500 times more health or 500 times more stronger than the default vanilla health value. And thus force it rewards people who really invest the time to build a base versus the people who don't. And again, it's all up to the server owner. These are the things that I would love to see in base building. Again, I know it sounds like a hopeful dream, but DayZ always giving us JSONs to controllers, default servers, and vanilla. And I think this would be a great step in the right direction.
I mean, it never hurts to dream about what changes can be made in a game. Sometimes those changes you get and they work out great. Sometimes you might get those changes and they're terrible. I mean, yeah, again, with a game that's getting updates and at least semi-regular updates, we really never know what we're going to see and what they're going to try and what improvements may be made and what non-improvements may be made.
All right. My last piece of thing is about the crafting system myself, right? Crafting wise, I would like to see the ability to use a third ingredient. There are several recipes out there that require you to do almost two stages, like crafting a fireplace, for example. That can be done with a piece of birch wood and a stick, and you can craft it immediately. However, you still have to well, actually, you know what? Fireplaces is a bad example. Let me retry this. Speaking about crafting, one of the things I would love to see them do is a 3-item crafting system. And this would make a lot of things a little bit more simplistic in their way of doing things. Like, there are many recipes out there that require you to do a two-stage process to get there, like having to break a long stick into multiple sticks instead of just being all like, hey, if you combine, two rags with two long sticks, you will get, a splint. Right now, the long sticks don't stack, but it still works out that way. And there are plenty of other use cases for this, but I really believe that adding a third ingredient could actually expand upon, like you were saying earlier, the common sense kind of abilities in the game, and crafting recipes. And as far as I know, being a modder myself, the code's there for it. It exists. Whether it's an attachment of a third ingredient to an item, or whether it's just part of the recipe itself, it should exist.
Me and Red were talking about this earlier before you showed up. The backpack, the improvised backpack, is a great example of this because you got to make the sling bag first, and then you can add sticks later on and make the actual improvised backpack. If you could do all that in one go, just I mean, I get it. If you already have the sticks there, you already have the stuff to make the sling bag. It's not that difficult to do that third step and add those. But if you could add all that at once, it would save a little bit of time. It would save an extra step and it would be that much easier. And speak listen, this might be an unpopular opinion, but speaking about crafting in backpacks, why can't I add some rope to one of the teddy bears that has an inventory system in it and make a backpack out of the teddy bear?
Kind of going a little bit more with my 3-item crafting. I think the other thing I would love to see vicinity crafting. And what I mean by that is I would love to have, it's kind of a two-stager, right? I would love to have a crafting menu, and I would love to be able to have the vicinity crafting. This is one of the things from the other games we've played I actually do enjoy, is that but instead of what they do, I would like it so only recipes you've already crafted once are actually already there. So if you do have, the rope, the burlap sack, and the 3 sticks, it tells you you can make this bag immediately. And then boom, you do your animation, you make the bag. But I think actually having it so the player can self-discover recipes, and it can be either individually per server or it can be whatever else, but just having the ability for you to look up previous recipes for beginners is an amazing thing. There are so many things out there that I didn't know you could do. Like, you could take a pair of pliers to barbed wire to make metal wire, so you can make your fence, or your fence into a gate so you can open it. I didn't know that, and I have a ton of time in DayZ, and I learned that from Cam Can Run Video or something like that, and I thought it was super cool. But like, there are so many recipes in DayZ that, yes, are self discovery, but you would never remember them, like a month or two down the road.
I'm shaking my head over here because I'm having flashbacks to Scum as you're talking about vicinity crafting, and I'm panicking over here. I wouldn't mind
Sweating.
I wouldn't mind vicinity crafting if it's done well. I also definitely wouldn't mind like a discoverable like a discoverable crafting menu, crafting tree, even like a journal, like kind of like what Green Hell does. You every time you start a new character in Green Hell, your journal gets cleared and you have to rediscover stuff. Yes, you as the player might remember how to make this certain axe, and you can discover it super easily by putting the pieces to that axe together. That's fine. But it's also there for later if you need to go back and reference it at some point. If you haven't played that character for 6 months and you're going back to join that character, you still have that recipe. You can still look at that and say, oh, I need this kind of stick or I need this kind of stone to make this thing. That would be something that would be very nice to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The other thing that we got to talk about is the survival elements. As a new player, again, I know I keep saying you're a new player. What about the survival elements do you think could be changed for the better? What would you like to see come from the survival elements?
I will start with Sakhal, the newest map. With the cold and everything, I love playing Sakhal. Sakhal is very fun to me. It's very enjoyable. I do burn through characters a lot faster on there because of the cold. But one thing, and we've talked about this before, and I think we actually had it in a previous DayZ episode, is actually, I think we had it in our Light No Fire challenge episode, is heat packs. I wish the heat packs
Oh,
did more in Sakal. I wish that you could either combine them with your food to thaw your food or your water or your drinks or whatever, or I wish you could put them in your outfit, put because you can put like frozen vegetables. You can put that in your shirt and your body heat will start to thaw it out. I wish if you had a heat pack in there with that, not only would your heat pack warm you a little bit, but it would also start to thaw that food or that drink out faster. That would be a like I know that's a very specific survival item I would like to see, but that's something again kind of goes back to that common sense with the crafting side. That seems like common sense to me. That's the first thing I tried when I found heat packs in Sakal and had frozen food. I was like, can I thaw this food out faster? Especially in the Light No Fire challenge when I couldn't make fire to thaw my food out and I'm starving to death. Like I need another way to do it. And that would be a great thing. I think I think the only and I don't know if you would throw this in with crafting, with base building, maybe with the survival aspect. I have yet to find a vehicle that I can work on, I can get running, I can add parts to or anything in DayZ. I know I'm a pretty new player. I've got less than 100 hours, I think, but I've never once, other than seeing a boat the other day in Sakal going across the water and seeing the back of a Humvee after it ran me over, I've never seen a vehicle in DayZ that runs. And I feel like I would like to see them be more prevalent.
yeah. Vehicles are very hard to get running, and because the vanilla types count vehicles on the map before spawning a new ones, you are very unlucky if you do not get a vehicle within the first like couple of days of a wipe. And honestly, you are lucky if you find one ever after that. Most people covet them pretty well. But moving on to back to the heat pack thing, I think it's cool. I think having a heat pack adjacent to frozen food in your inventory should make it thaw a little bit faster. I don't know how much effort in coding they would have to do for that, but I know it's possible, and I think it would be kind of a cool little like trick to be able to get food that's cold warmer faster. Another thing I would like to see kind of working off of this is the ability to place food close to campfires easier. I would like it if I could actually get close enough to drop the food right next to the campfire. Because right now, if I get too close, I start hurting myself. And no matter where I drop the food, it's always looks like it's so far away, it's never going to heat up. Now, whether or not it's actually being, it's too far away or not, I can't tell you. All I know is that visually to me, it looks too far away. So I end up hurting myself on the fire trying to drop it close enough to thaw that food. The other thing I don't like, which was a recent change in 1.27, is it seems like frozen food, like frozen tuna, frozen sardines, frozen cat food, frozen dog food, cannot be opened now when it's frozen. I don't like that.
Huh?
I would rather be able to open the frozen food and have it open with that pull tab, even if it's frozen, no matter what. But I
Well,
think from what I saw the other day on official, I couldn't open it even when it was frozen.
that's interesting because if you again going back to referencing our Light No Fire challenge video, if you remember, I I found out that you had to open that food in order to get it to thaw in your pockets.
Now, let me stop you there. I tested your theory fully, and I proved it wrong.
Well,
You
you know,
can thaw closed food in your inventory. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna go somewhere else then.
I
I'm
love you,
just I'm out of
bud.
here.
Don't worry about it, okay? It's fine. But no, I mean, I'm just letting you know.
It must just take a very long time because I definitely walked around for a really long time with some closed food in my inventory. Didn't seem like it was thawing out at all. And then when I opened that food, it seemed like it thawed. Maybe it thawed faster. Maybe I just lived longer and it like didn't realize it thawed. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. I don't know either. Another feature I would like survival wise kind of goes back to the heating element for Shakal was being able to put clothing near a fire and getting the warm temperature on clothing. I totally would do that in a cold environment. I would put my clothing near a fire, get it nice and toasty. And even though it probably would only last for a couple of minutes once I'm away from the fire, it still would make me feel more comfortable in real life. And as an element in DayZ, we already know most items can have a temperature. So I would like to see that as maybe a feature. Maybe it keeps you a little bit warm longer. You don't lose your temperature as quick, or maybe throwing it on helps you get those pluses to your temperature a little bit faster. Who knows? But
well,
those are kind of some of the stuff I would like to see.
piggybacking off of the clothes thing, something else that I noticed specifically playing Sakal this last time is some a feature we see in a lot of other games that you don't see in DayZ is being able to layer. I understand not being able to put on like 7 jackets, but I don't understand why I can't have a t-shirt on and a hoodie on or a t-shirt on and a coat on. And I understand in the game it's because there's only one slot for both things. But if you're really in an environment like that and you're really in the cold, you're gonna put more than like your base layer and a coat on. You're gonna have more than just whatever default t-shirt you have on in the game and a hoodie on. Like I feel like you should be able to stack those clothing pieces. You know, put on some shorts and sweatpants or put on a shirt and a hoodie or a shirt and a jacket.
Other things I would like to see is for layering is raincoats. It's never made sense to me why raincoats couldn't go over other pieces of clothing. Now, again, I don't care if they're less effective that way or whatever else, but like having less chances of getting wet, especially on Livonia, where Livonia it rains all the time, having a raincoat over my shirt or my jacket, and it just being like, oh yeah, instead of being you never get wet, it slowly dampens the jacket underneath. I'm okay with that because in Livonia, everything in my clothes get wet in no time, and that's my matches, that's everything. The only thing that probably it doesn't affect is the lighter, and the bullets. But like, I would like to see that kind of stuff. But
Well,
there are so many things we can see in DayZ to be better. And you're about to say something. I interrupted you. Rude me.
the raincoat thing doesn't really make sense to me because anytime it's raining outside and I put my raincoat on, I take all my base layers off and just wear the raincoat. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think your point matters there. It doesn't make real world sense. So,
Wow, you're a smart butt. Oh, I love it. I love it. But before we end, do you have any last minute pieces of feedback that you think would make DayZ better as a whole?
I don't think I do. I think I've covered pretty much everything. I again, DayZ is not a perfect game, but I feel like there's certain things that if you changed about it to make it more quote unquote modern or to be closer to other survival games, you would make it a lot less DayZ. So I've definitely tried to make sure most of what I've talked about changing or liking to see changed or kind of working towards has kind of tried to fit. I've tried to make sure it fits in what DayZ is versus trying to make DayZ seem like a completely different game.
Well, folks, that is our opinion about how to make DayZ better. Remember, folks, this is our opinion and our viewpoints. Don't take it as gospel. And remember, DayZ has a large community and audience, and playstyles are very different across it. Thank you very much for joining the State of Survival as we talked about the subject. And join me in thanking Dimension 119 and Red Falcon for always being there and helping the show grow and be successful. Remember to like and subscribe, and to talk for now.
See you in another dimension.